Lesson 25. Accompaniment on the offbeat eighth notes. The hi-hat with foot in rhythms, the rimshot. Accompaniment on the offbeat eighth notes. We can use strokes on the offbeat eighth note also to accompany a drum rhythm. The sound effect that we'll get is certainly with more vivacity. It deals with, in substance, playing a measure of 4/4, 4 strokes of accompaniment, no longer corresponding to fourths, as we've seen for accompaniments with quarter notes, but in an opposite way to the fourths. Therefore, the substantial difference is that, accompanying with the quarter notes, we've played the bass drum and hi-hat, snare and hi-hat at the same time. In this case, you'll have to be careful to bring your arm up while you play the bass drum and the snare. Let's go and see how to play this rhythm in 2 passages. First and second passage. Obviously, you may vary the sound of the accompaniment with the ride or any other sound on your set. You will try and apply this accompaniment gradually, also with rhythms that are a little more complex. Obviously, when playing the crash, you'll have to insert a downbeat stroke on the first movement. After you've gained more confidence with this kind of accompaniment, I'd advise you to apply it to all the rhythms on page 62 that we dealt with in the previous lesson. Here is an example of rhythm 5. The hi-hat with foot in rhythms. At this point in your preparation, you can begin to insert the hi-hat played in fourths with the left foot while accompanying on the ride. At first it will seem difficult, but with time it will come naturally to you. Besides, we'll see further on some specific exercises about this. Doing this will better the efficiency and fluidity of the groove, the precision of the tempo, and will mean a further step ahead in the development of the independence between the limbs. The rimshot. Let's talk about the rimshot, an indispensable stroke for any drummer. which is played by striking the drumhead and the rim of the snare at the same time. Let's immediately say that the sound of this stroke drastically changes based on the dynamic and point where it is hit. If we play a rimshot on the lower part of the snare, we'll get a sound with lower impact, but with a major number of harmonics. By harmonics, we intend the tail or ringing of the sound. Vice versa, by moving our hand towards the internal part of the snare, and if the drummer so wishes, also to the upper part, we'll get a full-bodied sound with a lesser number of harmonics. This can also explain why the same instrument sounds differently based on who is playing it. Every drummer chooses the exact point in which to strike, which can be a little lower or a little higher, and the subsequent dynamic. Therefore, the sound becomes relatively personal, based on the musician's tastes. The rimshot is almost never played on the tom or the floor tom, except for specific cases or in musical genres where the drummer wants to specifically obtain this sound effect. The last important thing is never to squeeze your fingers, as we've already stated. It's clear that to obtain a rimshot, especially at the beginning, it will be much easier to play at an elevated dynamic. Again, important that you don't squeeze your fingers because, as we've already said, your arm will absorb all the vibrations from the stroke. Let's now go and listen to the sound of the rimshot, first only on the snare, and then insert it into a drum rhythm. I played the first two measures with a rimshot and the next two without, in order to let you hear the difference in sound. It is indispensable that from now on, you always try to play the rimshot, because it is very easy not to play it. It is difficult, however, to play it correctly the moment you need to. Therefore, you should practice it as much as possible.